Hey friends, welcome to Midweek. We're glad that you're joining with us tonight, and I hope that this December has been treating you really well. We're about halfway through it now, and Christmas is amongst us. It is almost here. And so as we prepare for our midweek and we prepare for Christmas, I want to challenge you with one thing. Just take a deep breath in, blow that out, and tell yourself it's going to be okay. Because right now we are in the atmosphere that is creating a recipe for disaster. I mean, the lines are getting longer at the stores. People's tempers are starting to flare up and be shorter and shorter each day as it progresses towards Christmas. You've got report cards coming home. You've got all these Christmas functions going on, band concerts, and you're just going from here to there. And it is just a recipe for disaster. So take a deep breath and tell yourself, hey, this is going to be okay. And if you haven't already, I challenge you to jump on board and get connected to our Advent devotional. We have a lot of people here who worked really hard on creating it, both paper copy and there's a digital version. And maybe you've already been walking through with us since December 1st, when Advent started, all the way through Christmas Eve, the 24th, or maybe you're doing a devotional on your own. But if you're like me, you grew up in this world and had no idea what Advent even meant. You were just excited to punch the chocolate out of the day that was corresponding. And if you're more like me, you probably ate the whole calendar in one setting and then had to go get more calendars because, well, there's no more chocolate to punch out. But regardless, I hope that you're finding something to reflect on Christ every day, because what Advent actually means, it's a Latin word for to come. It literally means to come. And so from the 1st through the 24th, what we do in Advent is we find something every day to remind us to prepare our hearts and our minds for the one to come, which is Christmas morning, Jesus Christ himself. And so if I were to ask you, if you had someone of high caliber come to your house, someone that you just really respected or admired, and you invited them over to your house for dinner, what would you do to prepare for that moment? Most likely, you're not creating the menu the night before. You've been thinking about this for weeks, and you're going to want to get it right. So you may be doing some test cooking and trying to get the recipe perfected. You're going to have the kids cleaning their room about 4 or 5 days in advance. You're going to get the biggest Bible in your house and lay it on the coffee table. And you just have this whole routine about getting things prepared. That's the attitude behind Advent, because it's our opportunity to prepare for who's to come. And I just hope that you're just taking a day, or every day, I hope you're taking time each day to just remind yourself to prepare for who's to come. More mentally, more emotionally, and not worry about the mundane. Because if we're not careful, we'll miss the majesty within the mundane. And I don't want that to happen for you. So just take a deep breath and tell yourself it's going to be okay. So tonight's song, as we're in a series called Songs of Christmas, is O Little Town of Bethlehem. And I love that song. It's a carol that we sing almost every year. And if we haven't sung it already, I'm sure we will. But this song is really great because it's just talking about why in the world would God choose this little town in the middle of nowhere that represents really nothing, and why would he pick that place for Jesus to come into this world? So this song was written by an Episcopal priest named Philip Brooks in 1868. So these are some old ones that we've been talking about, but they still have an impact in our culture today. So this priest, what he did is in 1865, he went all the way over to the Jerusalem area and he went to visit Bethlehem. And so he was just really inspired by his visit over there. 3 years later, he comes back and he writes the lyric to this song. And then his organist, which is Louis Redner, he's the one that put the music to it from the style. I think it's called St. Louis, if I remember right, but I've never really heard it, but that's the melody in which he wrote the music for the lyric. And so this was Louis Regner, who was his organist in the church, and then the song just started to take off, and it's popular all over the world now. Maybe some different renditions over the seas, but over here it's popular, and that's how we know it by. So he got his inspiration in writing this song from Micah 5:2, but I want to wait to read that one because that specifically talks about Jesus. But I've been in ministry long enough that I've been asked a lot of different questions, and one of them was this: why in the world would God choose Jerusalem? Maybe you've been asked this question too, and then specifically I've been asked this from people who don't believe in God or they claim to be atheist or whatnot, but they'll say, why would you serve a God who's already chosen a favorite group of people? He didn't choose you as an American. He didn't choose you because you're this. He chose the Jews. The Jews are his people. Why would you worship a God who has a prejudice towards everybody else? Now, obviously that question comes from a heart of ignorance, and they haven't done their research to figure out, because the Bible actually answers this question. And maybe you've never really thought about it. Why did God choose Israel? Well, like I said, the Bible answers it. So I want to read this verse. It comes from Deuteronomy chapter 7, and I want to read the first 9 verses, and I just want you to kind of hear what's written. And so, starting with verse 1, Deuteronomy 7, it says, "When the Lord your God brings you into the land you are entering to take possession of it, and clears the way for many nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, all these ites, 7 nations more numerous and mightier than you. And when the Lord your God gives them over to you, and you defeat them, you must devote to them to complete destruction. You shall not make no covenant with them to show mercy to them. You shall not intermarry with them, giving your daughters to their sons, or taking daughters for your sons, for they will turn away your sons from following me to serve other gods. The anger of the Lord will be kindled against you, and he will destroy you quickly. But this you shall deal with them. You shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and chop down their Asherims and burn their carved images with fire. For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be the people for his treasured possession out of the peoples who are the face of the earth." Okay, so all of that kind of sets the tone. Now look at verse 7. "It was not because you were more in number than any other people that the Lord set his love on you and chose you, for you were the fewest of all people. But it's because the Lord loves you and is keeping the oath that he swore to your fathers, that the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt." So let's go and let's dissect this section of scripture real quick. So why did God choose Israel? Notice he gave some pretty strict commands that there are going to be nations amongst you who are mightier than you, who are greater than you, and you will overcome them. Right? Not because you're so great. And also, when you do overcome them, you need to destroy everything about them. Don't intermarry them. So don't give your daughters to their sons. Don't give your sons to their daughters. Keep it complete and destroy everything. Destroy their altars, destroy their culture, destroy absolutely everything. Now, that may seem to be a bit harsh. And you may be reading that text and say, wow, God wasn't playing any games here. But he did this for a reason. Not because he hated the other nations, but because he loves us this much. He chose Israel because they were small in number. Don't miss that, because here's the thing, and this is why he ordered them to destroy everything in possession of the takeovers, is because if they were to marry, if you had a son marry one of their daughters, or you had a daughter marry one of their sons, they had children together, and that nation grew mighty, someone's going to give the credit to that powering nation, the Amorites, the Hittites, whoever it may be, and say, well, the only reason Israel grew to be strong is because they had a Hittite man in their midst. They had a son from a Hittite, a Jezebite, or whatever it may be. So they can't get any credit there. You destroy everything in their possession, all their altars, everything that you come in contact with, destroy. Why? So nobody can point the finger at any other object and say that's why Israel became successful. It's only by the grace of God and his power that Israel became a great nation. That's what verse 7 is saying. You've become great, not because that you were big in number. In fact, you're the least amongst all of them. Everybody looks at you as weak and pitiful. Right? Nobody's threatened or challenged by you. That's why God picked Israel. It's not because he loves the Jews more than he loves me as a Gentile. It's not because of where they are local or culturally located. It's because they were puny and nobody looked at them as a threat. And when they did come to perform, all of a sudden everything else came to be. And so that's the first part. Then we get over to Micah 5:2. This is where it starts to talk about Jesus and why he was born in Bethlehem, a lot for the same reason. But look at verse 2 specifically. "But you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah," who, I probably mispronounced that like crazy, but he says this, "who are too little to be among the clans of Judah. From you shall come forth for me the one who is to be the ruler of Israel, who is coming forth from the days of old, from the ancient days." So this is pointing specifically to Jesus. So why did Jesus choose Bethlehem? Because of how small they are. The innkeeper couldn't take credit for it, which is why he probably wasn't born in an inn. A stable maker or a woods craftsman couldn't take credit for the bed he was born, which is probably why he was in a stable. No political kingdom could take credit for it. No riches could give glory to it. There's absolutely no one that could take credit for the magnitude that is coming in Christ Jesus, except for God alone. And when you look at him and his story, and when we sing this song, "O Little Town of Bethlehem," everything points back to God and just how much he loves us, which is why he sent his son to die for you and I. And in order to get to the death, we had to get to the birth. And so I hope this song inspires you a little bit this midweek. I hope it gives you a deeper appreciation for the song and just knowing that God thought about you when he sent Jesus all of those years ago. Friends, we are almost there. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay.